Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Laststandgamers, and welcome. So today we've got something really quite crazy to show you. I was working on another project, and then Wizard decided to show me this thing. Yes, a rock tornado. Wizard, just how does this thing work? It's far more in depth than I originally thought. But talk us through it.
Okay, well, I needed to learn how to use gravity generators, so I decided I would have a bash at making a tornado using a kind of a grasp on real-world physics with changing temperatures and stuff like that, updrafts, downdrafts, all sorts of bits and pieces, and I tried to recreate that using artificial gravity.
And you've actually been using this to mine as well, haven't you? You said that on the servers you can use it to suck the ore into a certain point and then stick it in your ships or whatever you need it for. And is it quite effective in that manner?
Yeah, it really is. If it's done properly, you can transport materials from a miner to a large ship without ever actually having to make a drop-off. So you can mine in real time and transport material without actually having to constantly dock and then go back and forth all the time. So it's really quite effective.
This system can be used off-planet as well, so people know. But continue, let's explain the science kind of behind it and how it works step by step. Maybe disable a few of the things like you were showing me before.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well what I'll do is I'll turn it off and I will reset everything so that everything's nice and...
So we were testing some other things before as well while he's turning it off. We've tested trying to put a rover into it, and it does suck people into it, and it is quite a scary experience being trapped between them rocks.
Okay, so I've turned off the main parts that make the tornado function, and I will quickly just stop everything so everything's nice and...
So at the moment you've turned off that down, well, you better explain it because Aaron will only confuse people.
Right, so what I'll do is I'll show you what's going on in stages. So at the moment everything's at rest. What we're looking at is there is a gravity generator it's pushing everything up away from the planet, and I'm calling that the uplift or updraft, which is in real world would be warm air rising off the ground with carrying moisture and all that kind of stuff. That's what this is based on. And then when it gets so high, it can't push it any higher, it can't lift up anymore because it's lost a lot of its energy. So now it's been suspended by energy being pushed up and a lack of energy or cold air trying to push down. So it just sits there and it does nothing.
It's amazing how stable it is as well.
Yeah, it's really good. It's nice. Now, the next problem is, after a certain time, the very middle of this, if you look at it, is starting to form a cone shape already.
Yeah, I see.
And it's purely because there's more mass in the centre of this than there is on the outskirts. So there's just more force trying to make its way back down to the ground. Now I'm going to break that. And to do that, I'm going to introduce a core gen, which is basically just another gravity generator that allows me to neutralise the updraft. And what I'll do is I will make it visible so you can see that happen.
So I've got all the different gravity components turned on now, so when he makes the different shafts visible, I should be able to see them. And it looks like a shadow in the background is driving his car across.
There you go. So I hope you can see that. So there's a green square there and all the rocks following that.
Yeah, I see it. I see it's all going by very
right, now,
nicely.
So that would be the core of your tornado. That's your downdraft. That's like super cold air. Oh, incoming.
Yep, there goes his car. I knew he couldn't resist. I knew he couldn't resist. As long as he was here, he had to have a part in this one, didn't he? Right, so there we go. We've got the cold channel going down.
So that completes the first part of the tornado. Now the next part, we need to clear the base of the tornado, and in real world circumstances that would be caused by rotating winds spinning off all over the place. So why should I be any different? So it took a bit of setting up to find the right balance, but I got there, and this is what happens.
And by doing this, you measured everything out, didn't you? Did you measure the different distances and check the effects of the...
The hardest part was to balance the updraft versus the downdraft. There's not a lot in it. Like, it's like maybe point something of a G. So that just enough to push up.
So if you have it too much, does it throw the actual rock out, or what's the issue with
what would happen? What would happen is if you have, say, the updraft too strong, I wouldn't be able to form the core that actually makes its way down to the planet.
Oh, okay.
And at the same time, if the updraft was too weak, everything would just plummet to the ground.
Right, no, I get you. Right, launch this thing, let's see it spin out.
Okay, so at the moment the core gen is completely and utterly covered, but you can still see the rocks trying to crawl back up on the outside because of the updraft. So I'll set the wind going.
From a different perspective, why you're setting up the... Because it reminds me of, like, you know, them fantasy games where they have islands above the ground. That's what it kind of looks like at the moment, but it's formed such a perfect shape as well.
Right, so that should be visible. There we go, so there's the wind kicking in. So this now clears the base of the tornado and it allows the rock above it to keep on falling. So now we've got a cascade.
It's sucking it back into the top.
Yeah, so that's basically that's the next phase. So keeping the base of the tornado is key to making this work. The next problem is that if I were to leave this without doing any kind of control, it would meet a speed that would continuously let it orbit, and it would never come back to the center.
Okay, and is this why you've got the one that's the outer one that forces it all back in?
That is part of it, yes. That is indeed part of it, but this works in space as well, so that has to be there, otherwise the rock would just fly all over the place.
Okay, so the final step is then, in reality terms, what would this be if it was an actual tornado?
What do you mean in reality terms?
Like, because you described it before, you said how the cloud pressure... Was it the cloud pressure, or was that an earlier step you described?
That's, you're referring to the updraft and downdraft and things like that.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is basically what you would be having here. Is this is it's an actual imbalance where you've got more cold air than there is warm air, and the cold air is focused in the center, so it's pushing everything down to the ground really, really fast. So you get your tornado effect. Now what I've had to do now is I've put on what I call slow generators. They are very thin blades of gravity fields, and they are designed just to take a little bit of speed from the rocks that are flying out, so that they'll slow down enough so that they'll re-merge with the top of the tornado again. And as that happens, it'll just start to recycle itself, and you can set it and let it just continuously run without anything escaping, and it'll just work.
It's such a precision bit of engineering, this, just like we saw the solar thing the other day. This is literally, I don't know, how many hours did it take to put this together, Wizard? Or just literally, did you concept it before, or were you just trial and error in different parts?
I've seen other people try to do this. I do actually have one of these on the workshop, but there was big columns sticking up the sides with gravity generators on them. And yes, it worked, but I was like, I want something you can bury into a planet, something that is almost invisible. I don't want people to see anything other than the phenomenon that is the tornado itself. I'm going to remove the other one now, so that's disappeared. And hopefully, without too much of a hint of what's beneath the surface, it'll just start to form a brand new tornado.
It's so scary. Like, if you couldn't see this and you just saw this happening on a server, you'd be in absolute panic, wouldn't you? You'd just be like, what is Clang, what is he doing? Oh wow. And this works with all objects with gravity, doesn't it, Wizard?
Yeah, all floating objects, parts, components, or Even blocks that are affected by gravity, if you want to power up a mass block, space balls, things like that, they probably won't last very long. They'll probably get destroyed if they bounce off the planet or into each other. But the rocks are really good. I mean, look at that, just starting to form.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.